If you've done retopology in Blender, you probably know the old workflow. You start by adding a plane or a single face, and then you turn on snapping and you set it to face project. And then to improve the visibility, you can turn on in front. However, because you turn on in front, you can also see it from the other side, which can be confusing. You can enable backface culling and that improves it somewhat, but it's still not ideal. Instead, in the Mesh Edit Mode overlays, turn on this retopology checkbox. And then carefully adjust the value to just enough so you can see the retopology mesh. Now you can really see the retopology mesh only where you need to see it. Be careful that you don't set this value too high, because if it's too high, you can still see it from the other side. So now you can retopologize your mesh without the confusion of seeing the backface from the other side. When doing retopology, you're usually creating new geometry by either using the F2 add-on and pressing F, or by pressing E for extrude to create new vertices and new edges. Unfortunately, that means you often have to do a lot of adjustments of the position of the new vertices. You can save a lot of time already by setting it to tweak selection. That way you don't always have to press G to adjust the position of a vertex. But an even faster way to extrude is by holding Ctrl and right mouse clicking where you want to extrude to. The benefit of this extrusion method, besides the speed, is that you can adjust the rotation of what you're extruding while you're extruding it. That way you don't have to adjust the resulting geometry so much. After you finish retopologizing, you can redistribute the created vertices using the Relax Slide brush in Sculpt mode. To do this, select the Relax Slide brush in Sculpt mode and hold the Shift brush and then brush over the topology. It relaxes and redistributes the new geometry without deflating the volume, which is what would happen if you used the normal smooth brush in Sculpt mode. When you retopologize a mesh in Blender, you probably have snapping enabled with the Face Project option. That way the vertices of the retopology mesh snap to the underlying geometry, which works great in most cases. But in situations where you want to extrude along, for example, an arm, where the geometry goes all the way around the original mesh, this can lead to a kind of snapping chaos where all the vertices get snapped to the side that you're looking at. To avoid this kind of situation, enable Face Nearest instead of Face Project in the snapping options. Now you can extrude around an object where the vertices are snapping even to the other side of the mesh. In my experience, sometimes the Face Nearest extrusion leads to vertices being too close together or unevenly spaced. But you can easily solve that by using the Loop Tool's Space option. And then with Ctrl R, you can add more loops in between. If you liked this tip, you'll love my Blender Secrets ebook, which has 2000 pages of Blender tips. And if you prefer watching videos instead, the complete hard surface bundle has over 31 hours of Blender knowledge.